Two up in here
Mm-hmm.
podcast. We got such good feedback. Um, I figure we hop back on again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I feel like this time around, people seem to be very interested into the four archetypes I was breaking down of the masculine psyche, and I
Hmm.
kind of wanted to get into it a little bit. Wanted to go into the warrior aspect.
The warrior aspect. Okay.
So, to review, there are four aspects of the masculine psyche. There's the king, the warrior, the sage, and the lover.
All right. I'm
N-
gonna look this up. The warrior, the king, and what is it called? The hierarchy.
Yeah, four aspects of the man. The other term is king, warrior, magician, lover. I like
Four
saying
aspects
sage.
of men.
It's cooler. The four
What?
archetypes:
Okay.
king, warrior, magician, lover, by Robert Moore, who is a disciple of Carl Jung, one of my favorite psychoanalysts.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Carl Jung, Robert Moore, and different ways they break down the psyche.
Okay, so I just pulled it up and it says Robert Moore's framework identifies four archetypes of mature masculinity. Let's put that in there: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. These archetypes explore in his book, The King, the Warrior, Magician, and Lover, rediscovering the archetypes of the mature masculine represents different facets of a male psyche. They are not mutually exclusive, but rather independent aspects of cohesion male self. So let's break down what the king is. What's the king archetype?
The king archetype is the one that rules over the domain. So the king archetype is the one that recognizes that there is the world and there is his domain, and it's his job to steward that domain. Not just and Robert Moore breaks down that there's a light and a dark side to every archetype. There is an over passive version of it, and then there is a over aggressive aspect of it, just to help keep things in context. So
Hmm.
the proper king is supposed to steward over the land, to cultivate it and to be responsible for it, have a sense of ownership of it, and also have that sense of responsibility for whoever inhabits the land. There is the passive king who lets anything happen, anyone's come onto said
Hmm.
land, into said domain. We kind of
Okay.
have an idea what that is. Like it's an inactive leader. Inactive leader.
Mm.
Then you
So
have the
in the Bible, that would kind of represent King Ahab. So that can be something that we can explore because Ahab is referred to as a weak king,
hmm
and that Jezebel basically influenced him and was in his ear and telling him how to run the kingdom.
hmm hmm and the opposite end of that is the tyrant, the ruling with the iron fist.
Yeah.
There's plenty of examples of that. Next, for the warrior, we have the the sadist and the masochist. So the sadist is someone who is over aggressive in their masculine energy, and like to they enjoy doing harm onto others. They revel in it. The masochist, on the other hand, enjoys harm being done onto them. You know, they like other people. There's
And you said
something
this
going.
is the warrior.
Yeah, this is the light and dark end, the passive and over aggressive version of it, and the goal is to be balanced between those two extremes.
It says here that the warrior embodies courage, strength, the ability to protect oneself and others.
Yes, exactly. The warrior is the warrior is the is a shield, is the shield of and they're the shield and the sword. They're supposed to protect. They are an active agent in the world, and that's the thing, being an active agent. Um, so it's like if you're too much, if you're not an active agent, you're going to have other people act upon you, and if you're too active in the world and you're unprincipled, you're going to just go willy nilly. But I'll go
Right.
into that later. And going speeding along, you have the magician.
Mm-hmm.
The magician is someone that can cultivate the world to his mind, um, and manipulate the environment in the world to how he sees fit. Think of a craftsman. Think of anyone that has a trade. Think of an artist. Whatever it is you're doing with your hands.
Okay.
Um, but the light, the over passive version of that would be the overthinker, someone that is just locked into their mind and doesn't get no expression out. And then the over aggressive version of that is the manipulator. They're so they not just want to manipulate the world to create crafts and create and express their creativity, but they want to manipulate people and move them
Mm-hmm.
like chess pieces. And then lastly, there's the lover. The lover is the aspect of you that can empathize, nurture, and connect with other people. Um, Not just on like a sexual level, oh, that is included, but just in a community and just a human to human sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the the passive version of the lover is ineptitude, is the inept, someone that can't reach out to people, that can't touch them, that can't engage with them at all. And then the overactive side is the aggressive lover, someone that is just balls to the wall. They're overactive and they're wanting to desire people and be desired by people.
Okay.
Hmm.
And out of these four archetypes, which one have you played into?
I have played into the lover. I played into all four. All four I have tested. I have dabbled my feet into, but I would say the ones I've dabbled into the most has been the lover and the magician, the
Okay.
sage. Hmm.
And why did you dabble into those the most? Like, why did you lean towards those two?
They seem to be the easiest. They seem to come to me the most natural. So
Okay.
like, um, I would think the lover version was first because I wanted to connect with people
Mm-hmm.
from an early age. I wanted to be able to connect with people, and it just seemed like people were a mystery. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
learning how to make people laugh. Shoot, when I first met you, learning how to dance with
Mm-hmm.
people, and then like learning poetry and stuff like that. All that stuff is like lover energy. It's me trying to figure out ways to connect with people. Um,
Okay.
and the magician aspect, I just like tinkering around with things. I like figuring out how things work. I like trying to discover the truth,
Mm-hmm.
um, of any given situation, how of the world and of myself. And so those were like growing up my biggest priorities.
Okay.
And on like through adulthood, I'm more dabbling into the warrior and king consciously.
You said in your adulthood. What does that look like in terms of dabbling into the warrior and the king?
Hmm. So in the king aspect, um, in my since like in the king aspect, trying to be my own man, trying to be my own independent person, trying to create a domain just from the simplest things of trying to get my own space, trying to get my own apartment, to getting
Okay.
my own vehicle, to getting my own income. These, uh, the word king sounds lofty, but this is the attempts of trying to create your domain, trying to create the space in which that you have ownership and responsibility of. And anyone that comes into that said space is now is now someone that you have to steward as part of your responsibility. This is
Right.
the groundwork for creating a family and all that good stuff. So
Hmm.
these are the ways that I've been dabbling into it. I'm trying to expand from there to owning a house, to trying to grow some food, and a whole bunch of little ways I'm trying to expand my domain in this
Okay.
world. Um,
That's pretty cool.
the warrior aspect, trying to be an active agent in this world. The warrior aspect has been the most difficult for me,
Hmm.
um, because the aspect, and I'll go into the three aspects of the warrior, but there's nothing for me to really ram my. There's no adversary
Okay.
that I can really push up against. There's no rival. There's no there's no like cause for that I feel passionate enough to fight against, or I feel that's really pushing upon me, and that's
I
crazy to say as a
disagree.
black. I know. I
I
was
dis-
say that's crazy to say as a
I
black man.
disagree.
Okay,
I
go ahead,
disagree
break
because
it down.
I think sometimes we think it has to be an external force,
Hmm.
right? And it could be an internal force that we're fighting.
Hmm.
And so every day we all have the choice: get up out of this bed and go to
Hmm.
work,
Hmm.
or lay up in this bed, not do nothing, then one day get evicted and kicked out. Something so simple. But
Yeah.
for you, not to put you on the spot, but your health challenge in the last few months,
Hmm.
that is something that you have to tackle because you have two two things, life and death. And
Hmm.
so you have the choice to say, I'm not ready to die, and I'm going to make a conscious decision to fight this thing. So first is mental. It's the mental process. So that's one way of being the warrior, because in our society, you turn on the news, you turn on social media, that's another level of dealing with your mental. You got the president, you got people trying to nuke other people, they might nuke us. It's a lot of it's the mental. So when we think of a battle, the battle can be in the mind.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then the second battle after the mind is the physical battle, especially when you've been sick. You know, tired, being in pain. Nobody know, because on the outside everybody looks fine. Most people, except for I had an aunt. I sat here the other day, and she clearly is sick.
Hmm.
But most people, you're gonna look at them and not be able to tell that it took them a long time to get dressed today, put on their shoes, get in their vehicle, go to the grocery store. You know, they're trying to catch their breath. It's hard for them to breathe. Their sugar is fluctuating. And so it's a battle. There are people
Hmm.
fighting battles all the time. And so when we think of the warrior, it's not always external, sometimes
Hmm.
it is internal. And the greatest war that we will always have to battle is ourselves. The
Yes.
idea of who we used to be, the idea of who we think we are, and the idea of where we know we could be,
Hmm.
and to press towards that.
Yes. Yes. Is there like a clapping button that we can play? That
I
was
don't
no.
know.
With the
Let's
applause.
see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
Because you was spitting right there. You was spitting. But that is, I completely agree. That is the health issue is my dragon that I've been trying to slay for pretty much all my life,
Right.
and it just sucks because it's internal. It is in my mind. It is shoot. It's a spiritual war at this point.
Right.
Me and this bad boy. We've been slugging, and he's been beating my butt for a while.
Right.
But but yes, that is the adversary that I have to go against, and trying to. It's one that I've been hesitant to go against because I just haven't had no. I haven't had the tools, but I think I'm over the recent years. I've been gaining the tools of how to be a proper adversary to this dragon, this internal dragon.
Well, yeah, and you need a coach. Whether it
Hmm.
be a fitness coach or nutrition. Like, I like to work out,
Hmm.
but I don't have time to work out. But I better make time to work out. But at the
Right.
same time, I would probably if somebody was to call, and usually Ciora will call or somebody will call and say, "Hey, you want to go to the gym?" That's more motivating because now I have an accountability partner.
Yes.
Now, if nobody calls me by 4, I'm taking a nap. And I may or may not go to the gym. I'll at least go walking. I'll at least try to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just doing something isn't enough for what my body needs right now.
Yeah.
Am I drinking 32 ounces of water? Am I eating my vegetables, or did I choose that macaroon covered in chocolate and coconut? I don't, it's yay, choosing which one.
I think
Um,
I know which one.
yeah. And so I think to highlight all four of those, whether it be male or female, but we're focusing on the men
Mm-hmm.
in terms of their archetype and understanding what is an archetype and understanding how to lean into that.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my coworker today, and I have a friend who I think they're in their early 30s. But when he was in his 20s, there was two women that I know of that he was like, I think this is the one. And I was like, okay, she ain't the one. She don't want me. Then he's like, I think this is the one.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just like, this is my plan. I want to get married. I want to have several children. And it was a lot. And
Okay, guy.
he was still in school at the time. He wasn't making no money, and he was playing his violin in the walking mall and collecting all his tips and stuff like that. That when they finally did get married, they lived in a barn. Like, it was a finished barn, but they lived in a barn. So, one bedroom barn. And I think that her parents, who are loaded in my mind compared to most people's parents, um, offered to help them, like, financially. And he was like, no, like, I don't want your handout. So when you talk about like the king, like, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, that reminds me. He was like, no, I don't want your handout, because
Mm-hmm.
do I have to owe you something afterwards? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I want. This is my family. And he wasn't like stubborn to the point where they were homeless. They had shelter, they had food, that they had the latest and the greatest technologies, and they didn't need that because they had love and a vision.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And they, in that barn, I think they didn't move out of that barn until she was on her third child, her second or third child.
Okay.
And but they didn't move into another apartment. They purchased a house,
Mm-hmm.
all with him finishing up his masters,
Mm-hmm.
wife on baby number 3, and playing in the walking mall like a homeless man, getting all the tips, and
Mm-hmm.
taking that money and start knocking down debt.
Mm-hmm. And how those different aspects of the archetype are working with each other. So he has his domain, he has his family that has responsibility for. He has a plan, which
Hmm.
that's more of the magician aspect, and then he is walking the steps necessary to be an active agent in the world to make these things become reality.
Right,
That's the warrior aspect. So that's how those three things, and of course along the way he's still connecting with his wife and his children, and so then keeping things cordial at home. So that's the lover aspect. That's simple example, but that's how all those things work together in
right,
order to have a mature masculine output into the world.
right. So yeah, so he had a mature output in the world, but the wife is older than him. And
Hmm.
so I remember she had to train him in certain aspects. Like,
Hmm.
you want all these kids, you better come watch this child, you know? And, oh, you were working all day? Well, I had your kids here all day. So you better go spend quality time with them.
Hmm.
And then, so I thought I enjoyed the interaction, and it wasn't like belittling or downsizing. It was like, we're a team,
Yes.
and we are going to work together like a team. It's not. this is his role as a man, these are my roles as a woman, these are our roles that we've chosen, because we have to remember the mission, we have to remember the vision that we talked about before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the premise of getting married was you wanted to marry your best, they wanted to marry their best friend, not
Mm-hmm.
just, somebody beautiful or attractive, you want that too, and somebody who was in a line with your vision. Now certain things may need to be adjusted,
Mm-hmm.
as time goes on, but the goal was a one income household,
Mm-hmm.
all debt paid down, and they never asked for a handout.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Some good
did it
rules there.
all before the age of 30 something,
Nice,
31,
nice.
32.
I like it. I like it. Um, I like it a lot. And so, with that being said, let's continue forward here and break down the. I want to break. Before I break down the three aspects of the warrior archetype, I
Hmm.
want to make something clear. Is the four archetypes? They do also live in the female psyche as well. It's just the way they're applied. It's just a little different. So, like for example, the the warrior and the man is meant to regulate aggression. That
Hmm.
is that is the purpose of it. The warrior and the woman. Do I have a cool phrase for the warrior and the woman? The best I can describe it off cuff is it's to prevent a woman from becoming a victim.
Right.
So, and I'll explain so with the three aspects. The three aspects of of uh, of the warrior is the ability to. This word is so overused. The ability to say to create boundaries, to create boundaries around yourself, to create the shield, to create the wall. This is something that if you look out into the world, there's a lot of people that can't create no boundaries.
Is that the warrior or?
Yes, that
Okay.
would be that would be the warrior,
Okay.
because you have to be able to say no.
Right.
The king has a domain. The king has a domain, but the whoever erects the walls around the domain and actively protects it, that is the warrior. And so you have to be able to say no.
No.
And
Hmm.
no is a powerful word. If no was a spell, it will create a barrier. It'll create a little force field like in Star Wars or something like that.
Gotta, you gotta tell Diddy no. So,
You gotta tell Diddy no.
gotta
No to them
tell
parties. You gotta tell them no. And this is something that is so integral to be able to create boundaries, and so integral to who we are as just life forms, that it single-celled organisms. You look at a single-cell organism, it's not just a self-contained little thing. It has a barrier, a membrane around it that protects it from toxins in the environment. And so you need to have that. You need to have that aspect of yourself. If you can't do that, you're not going to protect nothing, and you're going to take anything. Um, so that right there. Um, the second aspect is uh, competence, self-assured competence. So self reassured confidence is when you do something, you have an achievement, and no one has to be around to see it, but you quietly realize like I did a good job.
Hmm.
I mean, that was a good painting. That was a good marathon. That was a nice doohickey I made.
Hmm.
That spurs vitality up in you. And there's a lot of people, and even I felt this way. Even though I had accomplishments, wasn't assured in that confidence
Okay.
till later than I should have been. Um, but there's a lot of people in this world that don't have that confidence, so they're missing that vitality and they're missing that aggression when it comes to those domains where they are actually good at something. They're
Right.
actually good at something. And so if you're good at something, you know it, you can act on something. You can act on it. with
So,
less and less. Hmm.
what would you say to a man who, decent guy, beautiful person inside and out,
Hmm.
um, but comes off maybe as shy, maybe a
Hmm.
pushover,
Hmm.
maybe very docile? What would be some feedback or some direction that you would give that person?
Num Docile and shy. First thing, I will start with the easiest thing is to practice saying no. For me
Hmm.
personally, the hardest people growing up, or just as a young man, to say no to were beautiful women and my peers.
Hmm.
Oh, if any of those two people were like, yo, Vino, can you do me a favor? I'm on it. I'm on it in a jiffy. In a jiffy. Um, but being able to say nah, just
Right.
even if you really don't mind to this guy, hypothetical guy, even if you don't mind doing it, just practice for the heck of it. Just say
Saying no.
no, I don't wanna. I don't feel like it. Nah,
Right.
another time.
Yep.
Practice doing that. Practice building your barriers and be firm on it. If like if they want to,
I
if
love that.
they start small, start small, and to build upon that, find and it's like just like this is like I feel like this is like grade one self help advice, but hey, it all applies. It's all real. Uh, Exploring avenues that you're good at something, and if you don't
Right.
know what you're good at, just try something out
Try it
and
all.
do it until you do it well. You
Right.
did till you do something cool in your own standard. I just did
Hmm.
something cool right just now, huh? And no one has to see it, no one has to witness it, but you know, and that will build vitality, that will build
Right.
confidence. And so those are the two aspects. And I guess this would be the third and final step for the shy, docile guy is being willing to be an adversary. Being in
Hmm.
And what that means is that if there's someone that is doing something that you don't agree with on any level, it could be something as small as, hey, this guy's not putting the broom in the broom closet, or
Hmm.
or something like, or a great offense
Right.
that we just witnessed. Being willing to be an adversary to that said person, being willing to be an enemy, being willing to be a rival, being willing to do that and acting upon that. You
Okay.
know, that is, and that's the thing that I struggle with because I'd be like, what's the young kids? What they call their adversaries? Ops, ops. Oh, these young kids, they got it. They got this part down.
The
These young
ops.
boys, they ops. They're actually so uh deep down in this aspect of the warrior that they're actively looking for opposition, actively looking for ops. You know, and but the
Ops
thing,
within themselves or other people.
other people, they're
Okay.
looking for opposition, and but it's unprincipled. It's not guided by something. It's not,
Exactly.
you know, because I believe, we all have people that play different roles into our life. You got your family, you got your friends, you got your mentor, you got the people, your mentees.
Hmm.
An aspect that we all kind of miss from our lives is a rival. And a rival is simply
Yeah.
someone in your life that is has a similar aim to you,
Hmm.
but is going about it in a different principled way,
Hmm.
something that it doesn't sit with you or resonate with you. And so, in that case, you want to prove that your way is better than theirs, and so you two are in competition. That is a healthy, principled rivalry. What I see young kids out here doing, they're just looking for ops for the sake of having opposition,
Right.
and it's unprincipled, and you're just throwing your aggression at this person. And that's what's happening in these in these streets, Tamara.
I'm hard. Type
I'm
shit.
hard. I just
I'm a
took out my
do
ops.
it. Like, sit your punk butt down. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah. I
But
think
yes.
from
Oh, Tamir, I can't hear you. Ooh, hold up 1 second. Hold on 1 second, folks. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Damn, yo. I ain't even right. One of the things that I had to learn as a young lady, being in the art world, I didn't know what aspect of art would make me money or give
Mhm.
me a lucrative career. So people were like, "Oh, you're an artist. Can you paint this picture?" Yup. And I'm like, "Oh, you're an artist. Can you do this mural?" Yes. "You're an artist. Can you paint on my clothes and draw this?" Yes. And I'm like, "Oh, you're an artist. Can you do set design?" Of course. "You're an artist. Can you do story?" Of course. And I never said no. Mind you, I had never done any of this stuff.
Mhm.
But I was just like, hey, if I fail, you will, right? Because it was the principle of getting out there and trying and figuring out what I was good at, what I was passionate at, even at that moment, at that time. But then it got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm good in this area. And so I had to start saying no.
Mhm.
And no with a contract, because once I found out what I wanted to do and what I was good at, contracts and money had to start coming in as well. Because before I was doing a lot of free stuff. And I remember like going home and standing in the mirror and saying to myself, no, like, and I'll be like, ask me a question. No. And I'm like, ask Tamara, can you? No. And like, so then I called my family and I was like, hey, I'm working on my nose. Can y'all ask me a question? My mom be like, Tamara, can I? Like, no. She's like, you didn't let me finish. I was like, oh, sorry.
You was actively
You
practicing it.
trigger so quickly. Yeah. And so the no. So I think that, yeah. And I think that's key as well in being a leader, understanding that it's okay to say no,
Mhm.
especially to get your time back, to make sure you don't enter into burnt out, saying no from a place of still being integral. Because I know there are some people who don't want to hurt nobody's feelings,
Mhm.
who are people pleasing. And
Mhm.
sometimes you do have to tap into your inner warrior and be like, no, because the no benefits you sometimes in that moment
Mhm.
from a physical, a mental, and a spiritual place.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's definitely um, something to think about, because just like women, men can be taken advantage of as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The
And you know what BBD say? Never trust a big butt and a smile. That girl is poison. So,
oh, so
yeah,
Big Button smells so beautiful.
that girl is poison.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, yeah.
For sure. For sure. But yeah, these are the three things, and getting them to work in tandem together is essential to becoming a mature masculine warrior.
Right.
Because if you don't practice these things, like I said before, you'll you'll become a masochist, and not in a when I say the word masochist, you think of someone who, like, I don't know, likes to get whipped and chained up or something like that,
Right.
like they show on TV. But insidious. This is very insidious, and I almost fell for this. You might remember. Um, I was obsessed in my mid to early, especially my early 20s, with trying to prove myself as a man. I always was
Right.
saying, like, I need to become more of a man. I need to get my manhood up. Um, so much so that I was thinking about joining these civilian boot camps. Civilian boot camp is just it's basically like a role playing of the military boot camp. You go out there. I don't know if you turned your camera off on purpose. Oh,
Good. Did I
you good.
turn?
You good. You good. It's back.
Oh
It's
yeah,
back.
yeah. Okay.
um, but yeah, these camps were just guys being drill sergeants yelling, telling guys to like run this mile, do this. You're a punk. You're a weakling. All that good stuff. Something that Robert Moore said: if you do not have your um, masculinity in check, if you're too passive, you will be a masochist for a sadist's dreams. Like,
Oh
so
wow.
what'll happen is that you're trying to become a better man, and you're going to be uh, coerced by a sadist, someone that enjoys enacting harm on others, and you're going to be living out their fantasies and your attempt to try to become a man. So
Right.
you're going to be taken advantage of by the over aggressive masculine dudes.
Mhm.
And to think that I almost paid $2,000 for for a 2 week stay at one of those things. It was like, and when he said that, I was like, oh shoot, I'm in the masochist realm. I was like, oh man, they almost
They,
got me.
they was gonna beat that butt.
They was gonna beat me up.
They, they was gonna hit you with that fraternity stuff, like
That
bat
fraternity,
bat. You
and
want
I
to cross
think
over?
the
It's like no.
side note, but I do think the hazing rituals and stuff is that exactly. All
Right.
type of hazing rituals is that aspect is a passive person being taken advantage of by sadists. Um,
Dang.
hmm And once you can find, once you practice those three aspects of your
Mhm.
masculinity, that inclination to subject yourself to sadist
Mhm.
and try to prove yourself in that said way, it fades away. It fades away.
Right.
I don't know exactly when mine's faded away. It had to be sometime in my late 20s, but
Oh wow.
it just kind of went away. I don't know when. It just, the thoughts aren't there. And you used to, Tamara, when I first met you, it used to be rumbling in my head like crazy. Uh,
What were some of the thoughts?
some of the thoughts were like, I need to send myself to like a boot camp. I
Okay.
need to go and subject. What's something else crazy I was gonna do? This is not. No, I won't mention that. It's kind of crazy.
So
No,
you
I'll
were
mention.
basically you were basically as a young man trying to explore avenues to become a man and to be
Yeah,
seen as a man.
and I
And
thought the only way to do that was through pain.
right. And so
Hmm
you were willing to afflict. Why didn't you just sign up for the service? Okay, you could have been serving for the
I
US.
could have been serving. I could have been serving, but
Okay.
you know,
You go
I
you
heard
going
the
to die.
whole a black man got no business in the white man's army. I was hit with all that stuff. So I was like, I gotta find another way. But I definitely would have, if I didn't have that in my head, I definitely would have been in the service for sure, for
Right.
sure, for
I
sure, for
think
sure.
so we kind of touched on the warrior, kind of touched on the king aspect. In all four archetypes, there's extremes. You can go
Hmm
extreme here. So from a perspective of balance, um, I think some of the key takeaways are that there will be moments in your life where you'll have to operate into all four, right?
Yes. Hmm
And so there are some things, what you said at the very beginning, that seem easy, not so much as easy as a man, but easy for you to lean into because these were the things that you were passionate about. And so to put clarity is that it's okay for a man to be the lover,
hmm
but don't be the abuser, don't be the chastiser, don't be
hmm
the manipulator.
hmm
It's
hmm
okay for a man to uh I don't know about that magician kind of thing, but but I I think there still is a time and a place to tap into that. You
hmm
know, where you're entertaining, you're making friends, you're socializing. Um and the king and the warrior aspect, But I think for men, especially those who operate just warrior or just king, it
Mm-hmm.
is finding the balance to understand that it's okay to tap into the lover side, that you too need a companion or an
Mm-hmm.
outlet to vent,
Mm-hmm.
so that you are not going down a dark spiral, um, where you believe that people don't care or people don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the majority, people don't care, and the
Mm-hmm.
majority of people don't hear, but you have to search out meaningful relationships that will help you to get on the right path. Or if you're
Mm-hmm.
getting off the right, if you're getting off the path, those meaningful relationships, those trustworthy relationships will help you to get back on the path and
Yes.
will nudge you in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to have an archetype, it's another thing to be unbalanced.
Yes. And just to capitalize, you kind of touched on something that we can get into another time, but these couple of these archetypes are diametrically opposed to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So you just touched on it. The warrior and the lover are diametrically opposed. If you are heavy in your warrior, you're going to have a hard time embracing your lover, and vice versa. Like as someone that embraced the lover aspect, going into my warrior, uh, I was always I was always definitely afraid of being overly aggressive, being too much of an agent in the world, and that's something that apparently a lot of folks run into from that aspect. And
Mm-hmm.
then from the warrior side, it's hard to create these walls and be an adversary while at the same time learning to embrace people, be empathetic and nurturing. It's like two diametrically opposed energies, and not trying to have one up the other, but have them operate in harmony.
Right.
The king and the magician are diametrically opposed in ways, because the uh, the king has the domain. Um, Someone said that the relationship between the king and the magician, or I'll say the sage, and the sage is the relationship between a ruler and a jester.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, a jester is the only person allowed in the kingdom to make fun of, to mock, to actually have an honest discourse with the king, without fear of getting beheaded. You know, so they're actually able to say what the king is and what he's doing,
Right.
um, and that is a diametrically opposed situation.
Right.
Two different energies. Um, but a good
Two different
jest,
energies, but wisdom in both parts.
exactly,
Knowing when to speak and knowing when not to speak.
and knowing when to
There's,
listen, and knowing
yes,
when to, and knowing how to act upon what you just taken in.
right. Because there's one thing you pull the king to the side, like, yo, king, come here for a second.
Hmm.
I'm trying to talk to you. It's another
Hmm.
thing for you to say it in front of all the servants of the king.
Exactly.
You gonna be beheaded,
You're gonna be
okay?
beheaded.
You
You're
gonna
going
be
up on them
beheaded
spikes.
off of your head. And so it's still honor. There's a reverence in that. There
Hmm.
is a story in the Bible where I can't think of the gentleman's name. I'll have to find it. But he has, I believe, leprosy. And they say, well, there's this prophet, go down, talk to the prophet, and I think he can help you. And the prophet tells him, go and dip yourself 7 times in the water. The water that he asked him to dip himself into was the nastiest water. He said, why can't I go down here? What is it? He said, go and dip. He said, okay, done, don't do it. I don't got leprosy. I don't got no disease. I'm cool. Walks away. The king's servant or jester, I don't know, below in rank, chased him down and said, I think you need to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you about to die.
Mm-hmm.
And and so he was like, okay. So he goes, listen to him. Goes down into water. One. Ah! Two. Ah! Right? It's the filthy, no telling what it smelled like. The smog, the mog, the dead fish, and all kinds of stuff. Three. Dang.
All types of COVID in there.
We ain't on number four yet. The humility and the embarrassment and the pride, the things that had to be shattered. And he could have said, who you think you is coming up and telling me what I need to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Off with your head. And so they had to have a certain kind of relationship prior that he said, oh, foolish king. I don't know if he said, oh, foolish king, but it's basically like, you a fool. You about to die. Go dip in that water 20 times if he tells you.
Mm-hmm.
Go and do it. And he did. And he listened. And he lived.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Perfect example. Perfect example. These energies need to be harmonized, and it's easier said than done. It is as far as I'm concerned, it's a lifelong journey. But shoot, you know, I ain't got nothing else better to do. Shoot.
right. It is a lifelong journey.
It's a
We celebrate
lifelong.
this thing called life. Yes, Prince
Mm-hmm.
would say. Um, I I think in closing, how would you sum this up? What do you want young men and men to get out of the conversation? Do you want them to go and read the books, find the archetypes of manliness?
Mm-hmm.
Where would you suggest people to start doing research if they want to understand more?
If you want to understand more, I can't recommend enough Robert Moore. Check out his book, um, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. I loved that book. Read it back when I was in high school, um, and I constantly go back to it. Um, and Joseph Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
if you get a chance to check him out, he has the framework. If you like stories, like uh, most stories, action, adventure, all that good stuff, or just stories in general, movies, they're based off
Mm-hmm.
of his hero's journey framework.
Okay.
Um, you'll find, and so something to check out. His book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Mm.
You get to see how mythological figures, religious figures, all have a very similar archetype. Um, because there is one hero, but they all have a thousand faces. And and um, and yeah, and I will say go back to those three aspects um, of the warrior. Practice how to say no. I don't care who you are, how old you are, where you are in this process. Um, if you can't say no to people, or you find yourself in situations where you find it difficult to say no, practice, practice saying it, like Tamara was doing in the mirror with her family.
So my nieces and my nephews, and I used to work at a daycare. I used to think that the first words that kid, the second word that a kid, or maybe third, is mama,
Hmm.
dada. No.
Hmm.
Nigel will be like, you like, hey Nigel, how's it going on, buddy? No. Like, what the heck?
And that's
Nigel,
important.
you want a cookie? No. Nigel, you want tickle? Didn't I say no? I'll be like,
Uh-huh.
this little chipmunk head. And
Hmm.
so go back to the original because there's a
Hmm.
reason why you were wired to say no.
Hmm.
And it was so that you weren't taken advantage of.
Hmm.
And you didn't, because these kids, they're not fickle. Like their
Hmm.
yeses, their yes, their no's, and for the most part.
Hmm.
Um, they can be coerced or beguiled into doing some things. Um, so, no, it's important.
Hmm.
Understanding what is your natural thing that you gravitate towards
Hmm.
and strengthening those things, but
Yes.
remembering that the other ones are just as important so that you can have balance. Balance
Hmm.
is key, especially when you start to get into a relationship with somebody other than yourself.
Oh yeah.
And so this is another podcast for another day, but men need to realize it's easy. Like, she's so cute, he's so handsome, we gonna get into a relationship, we gonna get married. That's not enough. If you haven't done the work, like I said, goes back to your warrior, your mental, your emotional and spiritual, as a man or as a woman. How can two walk together unless they agree? What are y'all agreeing on? Chaos and disorder, insecurity. The man feels insecure as a man because the woman, she tired as all heck and she doesn't want to sleep with you. Maybe she's cramping and she's not coddling you. What does that look like? And finding those balance, but having real conversations with yourself so that when you get with a partner, you say, oh, they're not the problem, it's me. Or they are the problem. And even with your partner, sometimes you'll have to say no. Let it be a valid point.
Yes, and one quick something I wanted to add in there that I forgot to throw in there earlier. Knowing the difference between anger and rage
Oh, yeah,
is
yeah.
gravely important. Anger seeks to right. Anger seeks to adjust the imbalances in the world. It anger leads to justice. You see an
Mm-hmm.
injustice, you get angry, you want to right it. Anger is good. Anger is good. Rage seeks to destroy.
Right.
Rage makes you want to uh, kill them, their wife, their kids, and the family dog too. Just
Right. That
burn
part.
burn it all to the ground. If you find yourself, because I feel like in our society we we conflate the two very much, very often. Um, if you find yourself enraged, those are the times where you should find a creative outlet to express it. You
Right.
know, I don't know, you gotta go to a rage room. Be
I,
creative in how you express it. But if you're angry, there is an injustice that you see. I
mm-hmm.
feel like that is the energy to act upon.
Right.
And so, yeah, wanted to make that clear. Wanted to make that clear for the folks.
I think that is important, is learning to manage your own emotions and not deflect, not project onto the other person, because you are responsible for you, the warrior part. You know, because don't forget, there's that extreme. You can be like the warrior, I'm cutting people's heads off, or the warrior where I'm protecting, where it's integral. And so that is, I think, very important, very key to learning to engage from a place of leadership, learning to engage from a place of, when you're at home in your quiet place, learning to be a person of character and integrity. So that when you're called out of the house, whether it's to go to work, whether it's to finally to meet your mate and to be married, there will be always those things that you'll have to conquer. But because you slayed the dragon at home, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual things that had been pressing up against you for so long, that when you had the opportunity to display the king, because I felt like the lover was first, the magician was second, the warrior was third. Like it was like climbing upstairs, like climbing a ladder. And once you are able to master those things, then you can go into the to the kingship, right? Because that is the premise of leadership, is the ability to master emotions, the ability to operate as a person of character and integrity when nobody's watching. And when you leave your house and people will try to say or do, you'll learn to say no. You've already practiced no. you know you'll let your yes be yes. You won't be fickle. You'll learn to make decisions quickly, because you got to be sharp and quick on your feet, especially if you're leading others. So the
Yes.
premise is to learn to lead you, the person, the man, the woman, lead you first, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and figure out what that looks like for you. So that when you have opportunities, you won't crack underneath the pressure.
Yes. Yes. Because if you lived anywhere in this life, you cracked underneath the pressure, and you know how that feels. And it feels, for me, it feels shameful and terrible. But as
Mhm.
motivator, that I will never let that happen again.
Right.
You know.
And it's okay. We all will fall. There will be numerous battles that we'll have to fight in our lifetime. But each day, I love the gift of God called grace. Not the grace to sin, but the grace to be like, okay, today's a new day. What do I do with this new day, this new opportunity? Yesterday, the cat died, somebody hit my car, but today's a new day, or whatever. But
Yeah.
training your mindset and training your mind to say, hey, I'm not going to harbor on yesterday because if I can't go back and change it, but I need to put a strategy together today to figure out how I'm going to move forward, how I'm going to proceed. Because even though to the world I may not have the title, but in my household, I'm the leader. And people are looking at me to see how is she going to pivot? How is she going to shift? How is she going to react and respond to this situation? And at the end of the day, it's not up to them. It really doesn't matter about them. It matters about you managing and understanding your mental health, when to take a break, say out loud, I'm burnt out, and start putting boundaries, putting those no's, stepping back. And like you always say to me, how do I replenish my cup? Sometimes the cup can't be replenished, the cup needs to be replaced. And so honing in and doing self check-ins as a man and as a woman. I don't think a lot of people do self check-ins and be like, "Yo, I need a new cup," and it's
Right.
okay to
Right.
need a new cup.
Staying
It's
cracked.
right because this thing is cracked and a million pieces. We've been trying to glue it. We got the Loctite. We trying to keep the water out, the water in, and all that jazz, and it ain't working. And sometimes systems in our lives that used to serve us no longer serve us anymore. And so, as a leader, we got to know when to pivot. So, it could be when I was young, you hit me, I hit you back. Boom! I picked something up, bush you upside the head. But when I became 21, I was mad. I was like, Tamara, you can't do that anymore. You can go to jail. Well, no, it was 18, right? You can go to jail when you're 18. I was like, you can go to jail. You can't be busting people, man. You can't be stabbing and digging. And so I had to figure out another way of channeling my anger. I had to figure out another way of expressing that I was hurt and not physically harming people. And I was okay that people didn't see me as tough anymore because there's a place in me that just wanted to just rest,
Yeah.
not be soft. I wasn't there yet, but rest because you shouldn't always be in a battle.
Yeah. The the warrior deserves to be in the garden every now and again.
That part. And I think I was telling you last podcast, there's these black boys. I think they're all black. I want to say Philly or somewhere. And they made national news for tapping into boy joy. I think they call it boy joy. And so there's a group of young men who do stuff that traditionally young men probably don't do. They were going to hot pots, getting their toes done together,
Oh,
um, getting facials,
I need my facial.
going to museums and picking flowers and things of that sort. And those kind of young men will be better for women, not because they're tapping to the feminine, but they're finding their own joy.
Mm-hmm.
right? They're giving themselves permission to be happy, to have balance,
Mm-hmm.
to express how they're feeling, and they're building a community. They're not
Mm-hmm.
on an island by themselves. And sometimes, as leaders, it's a lonely place.
It
But
is.
in all aspects of our life, it does not have to be lonely. You have to seek out the relationships that will do what? That will challenge you, that will build you up and strengthen you, that will encourage you when you need to, and create a safe place where you can laugh. One guy said, I don't think it was you. They was like, yeah, I went to, let's say, a Stiller game at somebody's house, and everybody was hard, like, yeah, man, ooh, you see that popcorn, popcorn, I got the wing dings, you got the hot sauce. And he said, and out of nowhere, the game ended, and the whole living room shifted, and it was like, yo, I've been depressed lately.
Dang.
What?
Dang.
Yo. And everybody looking at him like he's crazy. Then other people like, yeah, man, it's been a lot on my mind, man. It's been hard. No, I think this was a movie I was watching. It had to be a movie, but
Had
it
to
could
be a
have been
movie.
right.
Yeah.
It could have been right. I
Like, I'm
don't
still eating the wings. I'm like, what's going
know.
on, buddy?
Like he's soft over there. Um,
Uh,
but it was such a beautiful thing because
yeah.
little that they knew they all were going through the same thing, but they didn't know how to articulate it. They didn't know how to express it because they didn't grow up in that wasn't the norm of expressing boy pain, boy joy, boy hope, boy. And so the only time a boy can really express is with his mother, most mothers, because the most moms are the nurturers. They're like, come on, baby, you're my baby. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we went past our time or not.
yeah, I don't know, but it's yeah. So I guess we finished our last thoughts. This was great.
This was awesome. I enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, focus on those three aspects of a warrior. You will do great. You will do wonderful things. You will conquer the world. You'll be an active agent in this thing. And if you are principled, you're a principled man. Like it means that through your acting in the world, there is an underlying ethics. You know, the world will be better for it. The world will be a better place that you acted in it. That you weren't just a passive sitter on the bleachers.
Right? Yeah. Do life.
Do life.
Do life. Enjoy life. Life is to be lived. Everybody shouldn't be depressed and in the corner somewhere. Talking about nobody love me. You are loved. You
You
are
are.
celebrated. And you too, Alvino, you are loved. You are celebrated. You ain't gotta be out here by yourself alone. You ain't gotta do this life by yourself alone. It may not be the ideal life that you were looking for or hoping for, but fight like heck to take the necessary steps towards abundant life.
Yes. I'm gonna slay my dragon.
It's time to slay the dragon. No better time than the present.
Hell
And
yeah.
and so we're going to leave you with that, ladies and gentlemen. No better time than the present to go ahead and slay the dragon. No better time than the present than to find balance in every area of your life. No better time than the present to practice saying no and putting up these boundaries because these people, these blood sucking, you know what I mean. And no better time than the present to tap into your own personal joy. So we hope that you got something from this. Be blessed. And until next time, ta ta.
Peace.